All right, I am here for session number two with Sean Lawson. We're going to talk about a couple beers specifically. Sean, welcome. Thank you again for joining me.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, my pleasure. We're going to taste some beer now, which is always a good thing to do in the afternoon. So we've kind of narrowed your range down to three beers that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Scrag Mountain Pils, Super Session number 5, and Little Sip, all kind of unique beers. So let's get into it real quick with Scrag Mountain Pils. Tell us, you were just telling me a few minutes ago about some of the interesting and more particular sourcing of water and whatnot for this beer. So tell us a little bit about what's going on here.
Well, the Scrag Mountain Pils is named for Scrag Mountain, which is here in Waitsfield, Vermont. It's the source of the water for our brewery. So the town of Waitsfield has a municipal water system. There's a drilled well up on Scrag Mountain that taps into the Northfield aquifer, and the water source is just beautiful. It's very soft, so it's lower in mineral content and flavor, and it provides a nice neutral palate to work with. And it's probably the beer I'm most proud of that we've created here in Waitsfield, Vermont. We launched this beer with the opening of our new production brewery in 2018.
Yeah, and right off the bat, the nose is beautiful. I mean, it's
it uses Zatz hops and a little bit of steering golding, so it's classically styled after or inspired by a Czech Pilsner. So it comes in about 4.5% alcohol.
Oh, this smells great. You know, it's funny. It's like if I gave that to like, you know, the average person, they would say, oh yeah, that smells like beer, because it smells like the classic kind of German lager style beers, which are all often based around that Pilsner style. But it's got that little bit of herbal bitterness that is the hops that's there, but not like we're used to, like a lot of your other beers and the IPAs and things. We're used to all these very aromatic, fruit driven kind of hop aromas. But here it's got that really nice, just kind of elegant, I don't know, you describe it to me. It's like
it's
dry, grainy, little earthy, little
herbaceous. It has a really nice graininess in the middle there. It's a little bit like just a light toasted bread, just a tiny bit of residual sweetness. The hops have that herbal note and the classic sort of earthiness of the European noble hops.
And it's super soft. I mean, on the mid palate, it is like just elegant across your palate, not heavy, finishes dry, a little bit of roundness, but I mean, yeah, at 4.5% alcohol, that's an easy drinking beer.
This is a brewer's beer here.
Yeah. Cheers. I like that.
It's a beer. Well, one of the reasons I'm most proud of that beer is because we get great feedback from industry people. So people that are in the beer industry, whether they're with the brewery or another part of the industry, you know, that's often a go-to beer might be a lighter style of beer when you're, you know, when you're having more than one, or you're just looking for a refreshment after a hard day of work. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback from industry folks on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy. You can pop a couple of those before you go home, and you're fine.
And a classic Pilsner is a challenging style to execute properly because there's no room to hide any flaws in that beer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. There's not a lot of yeast. There's not a lot of overwhelming hops or anything. It's just nice and clean and fresh. So yeah, and so you attribute that mid palate sort of softness to the water sourcing, I guess, is what.
Yeah, the water, and of course, and as we talked about before, the balance of the beer. So just the right amount of, you know, dryness, residual sweetness, malt flavor while being subtle, bitterness from those noble hops, and then a nice aroma to finish it all out. So it just finishes nice, clean, and crisp. And we use classic ingredients. We use a German Pilsner malt. We use Czech hops, and we use a German source yeast for the Weihenstephaner strain. So classic.
All good stuff. That might be my new beer. I like that beer a lot. Cool. All right, let's move on. Super Session number 5, Cashmere.
Cashmere it's a newer hop. So the Super Session series number 5 is the newest addition to our series of single hop IPAs, session IPAs. Comes in at 4.8% alcohol. Again, I really tried to execute balance, but I tried to pack in a lot of flavor into a 4.8% beer. I wanted it to drink like a regular American IPA. So getting enough body and balance into a beer in the lower alcohol range while really packing in the hops as well. Again, a nice kind of a lighter golden color, The Cashmere hop is a really wonderful one. It's got
Does it come from any place in particular? I mean, obviously it's grown probably in different places now, but does it originate anywhere? Or what's the backstory of the Cashmere?
It's a Pacific Northwest hop. So we get these, we source these from Yakima Chief, which
Yep.
I'm wearing proudly today. And it's a newer hop variety. And this is a series of single hop IPAs. So I really wanted to feature one particular hop so that you could get the essence of that individual hop. This one presents to me with some really nice characteristics of stone fruit.
Yeah.
I get some lemongrass, a bit of melon, maybe some peach, and some folks describe it as having some coconut. I don't
Okay.
I don't get much coconut in there, but there's something I can't quite describe about it, but it leaves this tingling feeling on the middle sides of the tongue.
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with the like, yeah, peach and apricot was kind of something that I was thinking about. Coconut, I don't know. I mean, that's more of like a sweet tropical kind of aroma to me, which I guess
That's what I
underneath, but
get.
yeah.
The tropical fruitiness is what drew me to the Cashmere hop in particular.
Yeah, but it's not overwhelming. It, right on the nose, you get the the herbaceousness and the almost slight resin kind of quality from the hops that you're going to get from some of these hops, but right underneath it is all of that sort of like peachy apricot, almost mango melon kind of flavor.
It does have
Cool.
all
Yeah.
this tropical fruit. Peach is the one that stands out the most for me,
Yeah,
but I get a little
definitely.
bit of that apricot that you're talking about. That's the wonderful thing about tasting beer, is that it's subjective, and the whatever your answer is never wrong.
Right.
It is what it is
Absolutely.
for you.
Well, it's funny. I taste all kinds of things, whether it's beer, wine, spirits with people, and they're like, "Well, what does this taste like? What am I supposed to be tasting?" And it's like, you're supposed to be tasting whatever you taste. They get all kind of hung up on, what's the proper thing to taste, and it's like, well, it's whatever you taste. It's your
Yeah.
experience and your memory that's going to create that tasting experience. So cool. I like that beer. And so, you know, is so Super Session number 5 is the latest iteration of this series.
Yeah, we've confused folks by jumping around. I originally brewed 11 different super sessions at the brewery up in Warren, Vermont. That's still active. I still brew up there, do R&D, fun side projects, collaborations, experiments up there. I still brew our once a year maple triple. And so I picked out sort of my favorites and also the fan favorites. So we started with number 2 that had Amarillo. Then we jumped all the way up to number 8, which is Mosaic, because that hop is so wildly popular. And then we went backwards down the number line, and I did number 7, which is Idaho 7 hops. Last year we came out for the first time number 6, which is Galaxy. And then we went to number 4, which is Classic Centennial. And now we're on to number 5, which is Cashmere. So people are get confused by that. It's not intentional. It's just we have a bit of fun and whimsy with it.
All right, it's an interesting way to count, I guess. It's a little different.
But there's more.
Yeah, I was always confused. I'm like,
more to come, because later this
right.
year we'll be coming out with our, for the first time ever, number 3, which is brewed with Comet hops. So.
Oh wow, okay. All right, we'll look forward to that. So I like that beer. That beer to me has that really nice fruitiness, but not so overwhelming. It's not like, it's not dripping super juice bomb kind of thing. It's again, it's kind of like what we've been talking about with all of your beers. This nice balance throughout the style from beginning to end. So all right, and then let's talk about Little Sip.
Little Sip.
Okay.
It's going to be a big year for Little Sip. Just launched there in Connecticut and across the Northeast as an addition to our lineup that maybe has been missing for a while. The American IPA coming in at 6.2%. I've had the 2 beers, Sip of Sunshine and Super Session, out in market wide year round for as long as I've been brewing in Stratford, Connecticut. And so many folks have asked, well, how about a quote unquote regular IPA? And so here's your answer. Little Sip IPA. Again, nice golden color to it. And
so here I get a little more, well, there's a little bit more haze to this beer than the other 2, maybe just a touch, but on the nose.
Well, that's what used to be hazy, Brian.
No, I know. Back in the day, that's what used to be hazy. You can actually see through it. But today, I get some of these beers that are like oatmeal. But right on the nose, I get sort of this triple layer combination of grain, fruit, like almost that juicy, like almost like that, what we describe as juicy. It's not a flavor,
Yeah.
but it's got that
Characteristic.
sort of tropical kind of fruit to it. Again, almost like the mango, I'm leaning towards grapefruit a little bit. And
Yeah.
then an underlying herbaceousness, which I always get from a lot of these hops coming because they are herbs, really. So
This
really
beer,
nice on the nose. Pretty complex.
it's styled after Sip of Sunshine, so little sip, hence the name Sip of Sunshine.
Yeah.
Sip of Sunshine 8% is coming in at 6.2. So like Sip of Sunshine, Citra is the featured here, but it is a blend of a couple different hops. And really, the recipe is almost the same as Sip of Sunshine, except it's styled to come in at 6% alcohol rather than 8% alcohol. So what
Yeah,
I
I can
get,
see that. I can see that.
big,
Yeah.
the big fruits that I get in here are, as you said, grape. I get a lot of grapefruit, and pineapple is the other one that I
Yeah,
get.
maybe that was what I was looking for.
And then there's there is that herbaceous quality. It's almost like cannabis a little bit in
Right.
there
Yeah, it's pretty resiny.
that I get in there. So it's, again, really tried to strike the right balance between the interplay of the hops, the malt flavor, a little bit of residual sweetness, and again, the softness of the water to bring it all together for a beautiful finish.
So is this beer brewed in Vermont, or is it brewed at Two Roads?
We're brewing it in both locations. So the one
Okay.
that you have is likely brewed in Stratford, and the one that I've got is brewed in Waitsfield, Vermont.
Is there a way to tell by looking at the can?
It should say Stratford. Vermont, but Stratford, Connecticut. But the initial launch that we put out, we weren't quite up to speed, so we sent out beer from. So you'll see some of the Vermont cans out there in the marketplace.
Well, I actually have a Vermont can here.
Okay, there you go.
This one's a Vermont one, yeah. So I guess my question, where I'm going at with the question, is we talked about the water sourcing in Vermont. How do you compensate with your beers being brewed in Connecticut? What's happening there to kind of keep the style the same?
Well, that's the little bit of serendipity and magic, Brian, because when I went to Roads for the first time, that was one of the things I asked for. I said, can I get a water sample before I decide whether to move ahead with it? And I sent it off to a lab, and it was remarkably similar to the water I was using here in Vermont. So it made it easy to match the flavor profile, not really match, but to get very close on the flavor profile between Vermont and Connecticut, and sort of it should taste like a Lawson's finest beer. So
yeah, well, I guess what I've discovered today maybe is the maybe part of the balance and part of the attraction that I like in your beers is that softness, from the Pilsner all the way through to the little sip here. I like that mid palate texture, that sort of softness that doesn't hit you sometimes, that you can get in other beers. And I never knew that. I never even kind of considered the water source.
Low mineral content water is less common than hard water, which has higher mineral content, higher alkalinity or residual hardness, and it literally makes it harder to brew with. And so soft water is the brewer's dream, because it gives you kind of a blank slate to work with for your water profile. And you can add brewing salt. So many of our beers, I add a little bit of brewing salt, so a little bit of calcium chloride, a little bit of gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, to achieve the right balance. But when you have harder waters with higher mineral content, the minerals, especially sulfate, often accentuates the bitterness from hops, and it makes it a bit harder to achieve the balance that you might want to achieve in a beer.
Cool. Well, just learn a little chemistry along with beer styles here. Cool. Well, I appreciate that. So three great beers. Cheers to you. And I like the knowledge that I just gained about the water and to be able to read the cans. So appreciate that very much. These beers are great. I think going into warmer weather, I think the Scrag Mountain Pils is going to be in my fridge this summer. And appreciate that, along with the other ones. Nothing wrong with the other ones. But
starting in May, we have a market wide. We do limited release about every other month. And starting in May, we're actually doing a full summer run of the Scrag Mountain Pilsner market wide. So you'll be able to find that beer both in cans and in draft starting in May in Connecticut. And we're going to run that through all the way to the end of August. And so if you're interested in finding that beer, hopefully you will be able to find it there in Connecticut.
Awesome. Well, I like it. So are you going to be brewing this at Two Roads, or does it come out of Vermont?
That one we brew in Vermont. We do 6 different beers a year that we brew in Vermont, in larger quantities that we release out to all 9 states that we distribute. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, once again, I appreciate the time, and the beers are great. So thank you very much, Sean Lawson.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me today.
Cheers.
Cheers.